Hello everyone, this is part 24 of What If Naruto's Mother Was Tsunade Senju, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Previously on Hope of the Senju clan. Once Sai had been declared the winner, the undercover root agent sheathed his Tanto sword and made his way back to the finalist box. But before he could get very far, he suddenly heard Karui call out to him. Hey, yes, Sai asked as he turned around to face Karui with his normal fake smile. Aren't you going to get these things to let me go? No, Sai replied simply. Why the hell not? The girl asked angrily. Because I don't help ugly old hags, the boy replied simply with the same fake smile before turning back around and walking away. Leaving a furious Karui behind him, who proceeded to scream out in rage, swearing she would get him back for this and that she would kill him. Disclaimer, I do not and will not ever own Naruto or any of its characters. I only own the characters I created myself. In the cage box. After Sai had been declared the winner, the cages watch as the young boy calmly made his way back up to the finalist box, while his defeated opponent was still screaming out curses at him. Impressive, the Mizukage remarked with a small smile, wouldn't you agree, Reikage-sama? Not bad, the Reikage grunted, as he was rather annoyed with Karu's loss to Sai and hadn't missed the amused tone in the female cage's voice, since this time it had been one of his genin who lost. It also irked him that Karui had barely been able to lay a hand on Sai and made her look like a fool in the end. The boy is quite skilled, and uses unusual techniques, Hokage-sama, the Kazekage commented as he joined the conversation. Yes, Sai is a capable young man and has the potential to become a fine shinobi, the Sandaime replied. Not wanting to give much away about Sai, especially since he was from an organization that is supposed to be disbanded. Indeed, May added, the boy knows how to use his techniques and used his opponent's emotions against her. So what would your opinion on the girl and him, Mizukage-sama? Asked Tsunade. I believe the boy named Sai has potential, but I would like to see a little more of his capabilities before coming to a decision. As for the girl, I'm afraid I cannot recommend her to become a chunin. Despite the fact that she showed exceptional skill in swordsmanship and excellent use of chakra flow. She still lacks disciple and was easily played by Sai-san, who used her temperament against her. To be a chunin, one must remain calm under stressful situation and not allow their enemy to play on their emotions. Such actions like the girl took when she was angered, could result in her putting her team in danger when on a mission. I too must agree on the Mizukage's comment on the girl, the Kazekage added. Her skill with a sword is impressive to say the least, but her emotional state and ability to make rational decisions is questionable. I believe with a little more time and seasoning, she will become an excellent shinobi. Although the boy named Sai, I believe, would make a capable chunin, given how well he performed in the match. Although I do agree with what you said about the young girl Kazekage-sama, the Hokage said. I also must agree with what the Mizukage said about Sai. Since I believe we should wait and see what else Sai shows us in his next match before we decided if he should become a chunin. I agree on both accounts, the Reikage said gruffly, as he had to agree with what the other cages said about Karui. Plus he was also interested in seeing how well Sai would fare against Yugito, who would be his next opponent. With the matter settled, the four cages and the two Sannin turned their attention back on the arena for the next match, which would begin soon. In the finalist box. After Sai had won his match, the young shinobi artist made his way to the finalist box, where once he arrived he settled himself in the corner and started to paint again. Not long after, an angry Karui, who had been freed from her binds by Genma, stormed into the box. Upon seeing her former opponent, the red-haired Kumo Kunoiki glared murderously at the boy, who simply ignored her and continued painting. Angered by this, Karui looked ready to beat the hell out of Sai. But thankfully, before anything could happen, her teammates came over and pulled her away to the railings, telling her to let it go. After some heavy talking with her team, Karui eventually calmed down, although remained in a sour mood, and glanced angrily back at Sai from time to time. How's Karui doing? Naruto asked after Omoi rejoined him. She'll be fine, it's more wounded pride than anything else, Omoi replied, where Naruto just nodded. But at least one good thing has come out of this. What's that? A curious Naruto asked. Karui might actually let go of her grudge against you for beating her, since she seems to hate that Sai guy more than you now. Hearing this, Naruto just smirked and said, maybe, but I'll believe it when I see it. Not long after, the finalists suddenly heard Genma call out to them, the next match between Kankuro of Suna and Aburame Shino of Konoha is about to begin, will the participants please come down? When Kankuro heard his name being out for his match, the male puppeteer began to worry and started to wonder what he should do. My match isn't important. Besides, I don't want to show Crow's hidden weapons before the plan. Not to mention, if I win, I would have to go against Gaara and I am not fighting him, plan or no plan. Looking to his sister, who just nodded, Kankuro knew what he had to do. Just when Shino was about to jump down into the arena, Kankuro suddenly called out to Genma. Hey examiner, I forfeit my match. As soon as Kankuro said this, a sudden stir erupted among everyone. What? Shino and Genma thought at the same time in surprise and some confusion. They were of course not the only ones, as many of the other finalists and members of the audience were also like-minded. What's going on here? Yugito thought with a frown. Why is he giving up? If he had no intention of fighting, why did he wait until now to forfeit? Naruto thought as he stared suspiciously at Kankuro. With the audience, something doesn't feel right here, Kushina muttered as she stared down to the arena. I concur, Yamato said, where he was joined by Anko, Shizune, Asuma and Kurenai, who all nodded in agreement. Something funny is going on here, Tsunade muttered with a large frown on her face. Yeah, I know, there's something happening that we aren't seeing, Jiraiya said with a frown of his own. The Sandaime was of course of the same mind, as like his students, he found Kankuro's sudden forfeiture suspicious. He was even more distrustful given recent events, such as Suna sending their Jinchuriki into the Chunin exam. The appearance of Orochimaru in the Forest of Death, his attack on Naruto and Sasuke, as well as the deaths of Hayate and the Oto Genin during the 1-month training period. I must say, I'm disappointed that your son gave up so easily, Kazekage-sama, the Mizukage said. Indeed, I would have expected better from a shinobi of your village, least of all your son, the Raikage added. Unfortunately, I cannot make any excuse for my son, all I can say is that if he forfeited, he must have had a good reason for doing it. Naturally, this didn't answer any of the other Kage's choirs. But they could not press the matter further since there was no rule against a finalist forfeiting before their match. Suspicious it may be, but it was not illegal. In the arena, Kankuro of Suna has forfeited his match, therefore Aburame Shino of Konoha wins by default, Genma announced. Naturally, this announcement wasn't received well by the audience, who were hoping to see another good fight, where many of them start booing and yelling angrily. Damn it, this isn't how things were supposed to turn out, Temari thought angrily, since they thought the invasion would have started by now. After Kankuro forfeited his match, Genma moved on to the next round, which was supposed to be between Gaara and the Oto Genin Dosu. But given how Dosu was dead, unknowingly killed by Gaara, the match was an automatic win for Gaara. Naturally, this wasn't received well by the majority of the audience either, where once again people began to boo and jeer. Ignoring the crowd's anger, Genma decided to move on to the next fight, which was between Sasuke and Omoi. But the problem was Sasuke had yet to arrive. In the cage box, it seems that the crowd is getting rather noisy due to the recent forfeitures, the Kazekage commented. Yes, I hear that, the Hokage replied. If I am not mistaken, Uchiha Sasuke and one of the Kumo Genin are scheduled to fight next. The Mizukage said. Yes, but sadly Sasuke hasn't arrived yet, the old Hokage replied. This is highly irregular, Hokage-sama, my shinobi had the decency to show up on time, the least yours could do is to arrive on time, the Raikage said with some annoyance. Yes, I know that, Raikage-sama, and I do apologize for this, the Sandaime said before his guard Rado leaned over to him and whispered in his right ear. I'm afraid we still have not located Uchiha Sasuke or his sensei Hatake Kakashi. Perhaps we should disqualify him from the finals before everyone causes an uproar. Perhaps we should, muttered Sarutobi, since they could not hold up the entire tournament for one Genin. Damn it, where the hell are those two? Jiraiya thought with frown. Did Orochimaru get to them? Tsunade wondered with a small frown of her own. I apologize for this, Raikage-sama, Mizukage-sama, Kazekage-sama, but it seems I have no choice but to disqualify Uchiha Sasuke from the finals and move on with the tournament. If I may, Hokage-sama, the Kazekage spoke suddenly. But could you hold on before disqualifying Uchiha Sasuke? With all due respect Kazekage-sama, but those who think lightly of time as a shinobi have no right to become Chunin, no matter who they are, Tsunade spoke. With respect Tsunade-sama, both you and your son narrowly arrived on time and were nearly disqualified, the Kazekage rebuked. I will admit to that, but we still arrived in time for the match and we did not hold up the tournament, the female Sannin retorted with a slightly irritated tone. I'm afraid I must agree with my former student Kazekage-sama, the Hokage said. Unless there is a clear explanation that will convince the visiting shinobi heads, daimyos and feudal lords here, we cannot delay the match. I see, the Kazekage said, then I'm pleased to say there is a good reason. Oh, is there? The Sandaime asked. Including myself, I can say that most of the visiting shinobi heads, daimyos, feudal lords, as well as the Mizukage and the Reikage came here to watch not only Senju Naruto fight, but also Uchiha Sasuke. Since both of them are the last heirs to the founders of Konoha and many would be greatly angered over not seeing both of them fight. Also, continued the Kazekage, I can say with the utmost certainty that like myself, both the Mizukage and the Reikage wish to see their most talented genin fight both boys to see how they would fare. When the Kazekage said this, both Kages nodded, since technically the Kazekage was correct. At the same time, both Tsunade and Jiraiya frowned deeply and stared at the leader of Suna as he confirmed what they had already suspected. The other villagers were specifically targeting both Sasuke and Naruto. Hearing this, Rado decided to interject and make his opinion known. With respect Hokage-sama, there is no guarantee that Uchiha Sasuke will come, even if we delay the match. Closing his eyes, the Hokage thought everything over. After a moment or two Sarutobi opened his eyes and spoke. Very well, we'll put the match on hold, and wait for him. Do you have any objections? I do not, responded the Mizukage, as she was interested in seeing Sasuke fight given what she had heard. Also if Haku won her match and Sasuke arrived in time and won his, the two of them could face off, which could gain her village some much needed publicity. None, answered the Reikage, even though in most cases he would have voted to disqualify Sasuke. But the fact was he needed Sasuke to compete for his plan to humiliate Konoha to work. Sensei, are you sure about this? Jiraiya asked with some concern. I am, Sarutobi replied before he turned to Rado and told to tell Genma of what they had decided upon. Nodding to this, the Jonin quickly shunshined body flickered down to the arena to inform Genma. Once Rado had left, the Sandaime turned to his counterpart from Suna and said, it's rare for you to say so much Kazekage-sama or to go to such lengths, especially for a genin not from your own village. As I said Hokage-sama, I am eager to see my son face against Uchiha Sasuke, for with the exception of Tsunade-sama's son Naruto, I can think of no better opponent for my son Gaara than Uchiha Sasuke, as it is the perfect way to show the daimyos and the feudal lords the quality of our shinobi. Regardless of the Kazekage's reason, both the Sandaime and his two former students remained suspicious, since they were certain there was more to this than what the Kazekage said. In the finalist box. Damn it, what the hell is taking Kakashi-sensei and Sasuke so long? Sure, I know how Kakashi can't be on time if his life depended on it. But you think with Sasuke, with him they would be on time. Since he's not the type of person who would miss out on something like this, an annoyed Naruto thought. So what happens next? Will I get to fight Uchiha Sasuke or not? Omoi thought as he began to suck on his lollipop. If he doesn't, does that mean the mission fails or do we continue to target Naruto? Fuck. Where the hell is he? He should be here by now. Karui thought angrily. This could complicate things, Sumui thought to herself, since if Sasuke was disqualified then they would fail their mission objective. What the hell is Konoha playing at? Where is Uchiha Sasuke? Yugito thought with some irritation. Given the importance Sasuke's participation in the exam depended on their mission to improve their village's status. What are we going to do? Kankuro whispered to his sister, if he doesn't show our plan could. I know, interrupted Temari, all can do is wait and hope he comes before he is disqualified. After saying this, the blonde Kunoichi glanced worriedly over to her brother near her. She then began to wonder if her brother had secretly killed the Uchiha, just like he did with the Oto genin. With the audience. Typical, Kakashi is late for everything, Anko muttered with some annoyance. Damn it, what is Kakashi playing at? He should know better than this, Kushina thought with a frown. I hope nothing has happened to Kakashi-senpai and Sasuke, Yamato thought, since he was becoming concerned that Orochimaru may have gotten to his former captain and his student. What are Kakashi and Sasuke doing? Asuma asked out loud, not understanding why they were so late. What's happening? Where's Sasuke? Ino asked out loud, not noticing the concerned look on Sakura's face. Sasuke-kun, a worried Sakura thought. In the arena. After Rado arrived in the arena, he quickly told Genma what was happening and what the Hokage's decision regarding Sasuke was. When Rado finished explaining everything, the Tokubutsu Jonin just nodded, telling Genma he understood. After which Rado shunshin back up to the cage box. Once Rado returned to the cage box, Genma began to speak to the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, an examinee for the next match has not arrived just yet. Therefore this match will be delayed, and we will continue with the next match first. Naturally, when everyone heard this, most were surprised and confused by the sudden turn of events. In the audience, "Hey, don't look so down, Sakura," Ino said, after finally seeing the worried look on the pink-hair girl's face. They're holding the match, so he won't be disqualified, so there's still time for him to show up. Yay, I guess you're right, Sakura said with a small weak smile, which showed she was still worried about the young Uchiha. In the finalist box. Looks like you lucked out, Sasuke, Naruto thought with a frown. Good, Yugito thought, who like the rest of her team looked pleased that Sasuke wasn't disqualified, since they still had a chance at completing their objective. Phew, we got lucky, Kankuro thought as he whipped the sweat of his forehead. At the same time a look of relief appeared on his sister Temari's face, while a pleased look appeared on Gaara's. With the Sasukes and Omoi's match delayed, Genma moved on to the last match, which was between Haku and Sumui. After Genma called them down, the two girls quickly made their way down to the arena, where Haku's used a Mizu Shunshin water body flicker to go down to the arena, while Sumui simply jumped down. This should be an interesting matchup, Naruto thought, since he knew from past experiences that both girls were quite skilled. Hey Naruto, Shikamaru said as he walked over to the blonde. You know these two girls pretty well, don't you? Yay. So who do you think will win? Hard to tell, Naruto replied, both of them are no pushovers and are pretty strong. In terms of skill, I would think they are about even, although Haku has her Hyoten bloodline which could give her the edge. But even with that it doesn't mean she will win, as Sumui is not someone you should underestimate. Not to mention I haven't seen her fight seriously in a while, so who knows what she can do now since then. After hearing this Shikamaru just nodded, as he was pleased that he was out of the exam and wouldn't have to fight either girl as both of them would have been too troublesome for him to deal with. In the arena. Once the two girls had appeared in the arena and were facing one another, Genma began the match. As soon as Genma shouted, "Begin!" Haku made the first move and took out a set of senbon needles and fired them at Sumui, who in turn, drew her katana from her back and skillfully deflected them. But as soon as she had dealt with the flying needles, Sumui caught a blur at the corner of her eye. Acting fast, Sumui quickly spun around where she narrowly blocked a strike from Haku with her needles, who had used the senbon needles as a distraction to move around behind the Kumo Kanochi and attack her from behind. Fast, thought Sumui as she blocked Haku's needles with her katana, before pushing the ice user back and attempted the Kumo Ruomokiri cloud-style front beheading technique in an attempt to cut her in two. But when Sumui swung her katana at Haku, the Kiri Kanoiki reverted into a split log, revealing that Haku had used a Kawarimi no Jutsu body replacement technique. Realizing what Haku must have done, Sumui quickly spun and deflected several incoming senbon needles using the Kumo Ru Mikizukijiri cloud-style 3 days moon beheading technique. But after she did this, Haku appeared directly in front on her and delivered a sharp kick to Sumui's stomach, causing the blonde girl to double over and drop her katana. Following up with her attack, Haku attempted a spinning back kick to the side of Sumui's head. But to her surprise, Sumui recovered faster than she had anticipated and blocked the kick with her right arm and pushed the Kiri Genin away. Unwilling to let go of her advantage, Haku moved forward and attempted a straightforward punch to Sumui's face which the Kumo Kanoiki blocked with her right hand. She then attempted to punch Haku in the stomach with her left fist, but before her fist could hit Haku's stomach, the ice user disappeared in a blur. She then reappeared behind Sumui in midair and attempted spinning kick to the back of Sumui's head. Unfortunately for Haku, Sumui had anticipated her move and ducked under Haku's kick. She then grabbed hold of Haku's leg as it flew above her and then spun the ice user around before throwing her away to the other end of the arena. When Tsunade threw her away, Haku quickly recovered by preforming a mid-air flip, allowing her to land on her feet. But as soon as she did, she saw Tsunade racing towards her with her katana in hand. Wasting no time, Haku immediately took out a set of senbon needles and blocked the Kumo Kanochi's swing. After Haku blocked Tsunade's katana with her senbon needles, a battle for dominance erupted between the two Kanoiki, each trying to push the other back. After a minute or so of struggling, Tsunade eventually gained the upper hand and started to push Haku back, revealing that she was the stronger of the two. Realizing that she could not win in a battle of strength with Tsunade, Haku began to preform several one-handed hand seal, much to the surprise of Tsunade and several other people in the audience. In the audience, finalist box cage box. Wait, she can perform seals with just a single hand. Izumo said in surprise when he saw Haku perform hand seals with her one free hand. Damn, Kotetsu said with equal surprise. Not bad, Ice Princess, and impressed my mutter when she saw this. I didn't think something like that was possible, Akatsuki said in disbelief. Looks like she more than just a pretty face, Kuretsuki commented with some measure of respect. That Kiri girl is just like Hanzo's granddaughter, Asuma remarked, where Kurenai and the others nodded in agreement. Impressive, the Sandaime commented, even though he had heard from Naruto and Kakashi that Haku had the skill to perform seals with one hand. Naturally, the most of the other cages were in agreement, although the Reikage frowned slightly knowing that this could pose a problem for Tsunade. Damn it, she even more skilled than we thought, Yugito thought when she saw Haku using one-handed hand seals. This could be trouble, Omoi thought with a frown. In the arena, after Haku finished performing her hand seal, she said Haijutsu, Sensatsu Susho, secret technique, 1,000 flying water needles of death. After which 1,000 long water needles form around them. Once the water needles surrounded them, Haku had them fly forward attacking Tsunade from all angles, while she jumped away from the Kumo Kanoiki, leaving little chance for her to escape. But when the attack ended and Haku landed back on the ground a few feet away from Tsunade, the Kumo Kanoiki reverted into a wooden long, revealing that Tsunade had replaced herself at the last second, just as Haku jumped away from her. As soon as she realized that Tsunade had escaped, the Kiri Kanoiki immediately began to search for her opponent. When she looked up, she saw several dozen of kunai flying towards her. Knowing she couldn't avoid them all in time, Haku quickly formed an ice dome around herself to block the incoming kunai. But when the kunai embedded themselves into the ice dome, Haku saw that several of the kunai had exploding notes tied to them, where they then lit up and exploded, destroying the ice dome. After the explosion, Tsunade reappeared a few feet from where the explosion happened. But as the smoke from the explosion dissipated, she was surprised to see that Haku was gone. Before she could do anything, Tsunade suddenly felt the air around her go cold. The next thing Tsunade knew, she saw an ice mirror appear behind her with an image of Haku, who then said, Makyo Hyosho, demonic mirroring ice crystals, and fired a hail of senbon needles at Tsunade back. Seeing this, Tsunade tried to avoid the senbon needles, but they came in too fast for her to avoid them all and was hit in the back by 2 needles, causing her to fall to the ground in a small heap. After hitting Tsunade, Haku then emerged out of the ice mirror, which then melted away, where she then threw several more senbon needles at Tsunade, who was still on the ground pulling the needles from her back. Remarkable though, Tsunade was able to recover quickly from her attack and was able to avoid the senbon needles by jumping away. She then picked up her katana again and raced towards Haku at top speed, intending to cut the Kiri Kanoiki in 2 with a wide horizontal slash. Seeing Tsunade coming towards her, the female ice user waited until the last second to avoid Tsunade's slash and used her superior speed to appear behind Tsunade and strike at her from behind. But what Haku didn't know was that Tsunade had predicted this and used the Kumo Ru Uragiri cloud-style reverse beheading technique, where she spun around and swung at the female ice user right when she appeared behind her. But luckily for Haku, thanks to the several years of training under Zabuza, she had developed excellent reaction speed and was able to avoid the slash by jumping backwards. Although she did receive a large slash on her blue top, exposing her fishnet shirt underneath a little along with her chest. 1. After Tsunade's slash, Haku landed back on the ground several feet away from Tsunade, who was now facing her. Impressive, you are quite skilled, your swordsmanship is excellent and your taijutsu is clearly superior to my own, Haku commented, as she looked at her now cut shit. Thank you, you're very skilled as well, your ninjutsu skill is quite remarkable and your speed is vastly superior to my own, Tsunade replied. I have heard rumors of there being a single survivor of the famed Yuki clan of Kirigakure hidden mist after the bloodline purge. I had even heard that you were gift prodigy, and that you were a student of the infamous Kirigakure no Kijin, demon of the hidden mist Momoki Zabuza. Clearly those rumors were true. Yes, I was, and allow me to show you what else I have learned from Zabuza-sama, Haku replied, where she formed a single hand seal and said, Kirigakure no Jutsu hidden mist technique. After she said this, the arena once again became filled with a thick mist, much like when Yugito and Chojuro fought. In the audience finalist box. That a girl Haku, Zabuza thought with a smile, when he saw Haku use the Kirigakure no Jutsu. He knew better than anyone how skilled Haku was when fighting in the mist, as he had trained her how to fight effectively in places with limited sight range. Her skill in using Sirento Kiringu no Jutsu, soundless murder technique, was vastly superior to Chojuro's and in some ways rivaled some of Zabuza's former comrades in the Kiri no Shinobugatana Shichinin Shu 7 Shinobi Swordsmen of the Mist. Also using Kirigakure no Jutsu and Sirento Kiringu no Jutsu worked well Haku's way of fighting, where she preferred to take down her opponents quickly and efficiently using her high speed and natural stealth. Ah man, not this again, Kiba muttered, since now they couldn't see the fight. Tsunade will have trouble now, as Haku is a lot more skilled in fighting in the mist than Chojuro is, thanks to her years under Zabuza, Naruto thought. So she using the same tactic as the Kiri Genin I fought, Yugito thought before a small smile appeared. But if she thinks she will have a better chance of beating Tsunade with it, than that other Genin had with me. She's sadly mistaken, as Tsunade is the worst person to fight this way. In the arena, seeing the mist beginning to cover the arena, Tsunade quickly raced towards Haku in the hope of reaching her before she could hide in the mist. Unfortunately though for Tsunade, Haku kept her distance from the Kumo Kunoiki and soon disappeared within the mist once it fully formed. After Haku disappeared inside the mist, Tsunade found herself under assault from different directions, as Haku used her high speed to her advantage and circled around Tsunade firing Senbon needles. As the battle progressed, Tsunade did her best to block all the incoming needles, but sadly they were coming in so fast and because of the mist limiting her sight she couldn't deflect them all. After a little while Haku decided to move in for the final blow, where she used her high speed to silently maneuver behind Tsunade and strike her in back of her neck and disable her. But to Haku's surprise, Tsunade spun around and blocked Haku's strike with her katana and then pushed the ice user away and attempted to slash Haku with her blade. With little time to spare, Haku quickly jumped into the mist to hide, while at the same time thinking, how did she know where I was? She couldn't have predicted where I would strike, nor could she have seen or heard me. So how was she able to block my attack? Before Haku could think any further on the matter, the female ice user suddenly heard the sound of something flying through the air from her right. Falling to her knees, Haku narrowly avoided several shuriken that whooshed past her head. Once she got back onto her feet, she heard the sound of something flying towards her in the opposition direction of where the shuriken came from. Not wasting a moment, Haku jumped backwards to avoid the flying projectiles, which turned out to be kunai, after she saw them fly past her. But as soon as she avoided them, she found herself under attack again by Tsunade, who appeared out of the mist in front of her and attempted a vertical slash down on Haku's head. With only a moment to spare, Haku threw the Senbon needles she had in hand at the blonde Kunoiki, forcing Tsunade to use her katana to deflect the incoming needles. This then gave Haku enough time to disappear into the mist again. But to the ice user's surprise, Tsunade followed after. No matter how well she hid in the mist, Tsunade kept finding her. After blocking another of Tsunade's sword slashes with her Senbon needles, Haku pushed Tsunade back, where two Kunoiki once again faced one another. It seems I have underestimated you, Tsunade-san. I did not know you were a sensor-type shinobi, Haku said, since it was the only possible explanation as to how Tsunade kept finding her. 2. A true shinobi should only reveal their true abilities when they have to, Tsunade answered as she readied her sword again. Indeed, Haku replied, where she readied her Senbon needles while also performing a single one-handed hand seal that deactivated the mist. Since with Tsunade now revealed as a sensor-type shinobi, there was no point in having the mist since she could find Haku by sensing for her chakra. As the mist slowly faded, the two Kunoiki continued to stare at one another, each waiting to see who would make the first move. After a little while, once the mist had fully cleared, Haku decided she would make the first move. Putting her senbon needles away, Haku took out 2 medium-sized scrolls and opened them up and laid them on the ground. Unsure as to what Haku was up to, Simui readied herself for an attack. Once the scrolls were open and on the ground, Haku formed 2 simple hand seals and tapped the center of each scroll with her foot. After which a large amount of water erupted from the scrolls and flooded the surrounding ground. Damn it, thought Simui, as she quickly realized what Haku was planning, but before she could act, she suddenly felt a familiar cold chill in the air around her. After which Haku formed an unfamiliar hand seal and said, Makyo Hyosho. Where the water began to turn into ice, and in an instant, multiple mirrors of ice were created around the 2 Kunoiki. Before Simui knew what happened, she was trapped in a dome of 21 floating mirrors made out of ice. In the audience. So Haku has been forced to use the Makyo Hyosho, Zabuza thought with a frown when he saw Haku trump card. Something must have happened in the mist between her and the Kumo girl to force Haku to use her best technique. That bitch. She stole my idea, annoyed my thought, as she had used scrolls to create a small field of water when she fought Naruto in the preliminaries. That technique, said Sakura, recognizing the ice user's technique. You know that technique, Sakura? Ino asked as she turned to her friend. Yes, I saw her use this technique when we fought her and Zabuza at Nami no Kuni Wave Country. She used it to defeat Sai and Sasuke-kun and nearly defeated Naruto with it as well. When Ino and the others heard this, they were of course surprised, especially her former classmates, who were surprised to hear of a technique that defeated Sasuke and nearly defeated Naruto. So that's the technique Kakashi and Naruto were talking about, Kushina thought as she looked down at the ice dome. This was of course the first time Kushina and Yamato were seeing Haku's Makyo Hyosho since Naruto had just defeated the ice user when they arrived at the bridge. But they had heard about it later on, from Naruto and Kakashi, and from what they heard it was a dangerous technique to go up against. In the cage box. A most unique technique, the Sandaime commented when he saw Haku's Makyo Hyosho. He of course knew about the technique from Kakashi and the others' report after the mission in Nami no Kuni. In the report, Kakashi and Sakura had mentioned the technique, while Naruto, Sasuke and Sai had explained how it worked in their reports. Indeed, the Kazekage with a tone of intrigue, your shinobi Haku has a great deal of talent, Mizukage-sama. She does indeed, Kazekage-sama, Mei replied with a smile. I dare say she has this match won, as with the exception of one, no one has ever escaped Haku's Makyo Hyosho. I would not be so quick to claim victory, Mizukage-sama, the Reikage said, as he joined the conversation, as the fight is far from over and Simui has yet to show her true skill. This remark from the Reikage of course got the other cages' interest, who were now curious to see what the Reikage was talking about and how exactly would Simui escape Haku's Makyo Hyosho. The finalist box. Damn, this doesn't look good for Simui, muttered Naruto when he saw Haku's Makyo Hyosho. You know this technique? Yudito asked, turning to her fellow blonde. Yay. Back when I first met Haku in Nami no Kuni, she used this technique to fight Sai, Sasuke and me and nearly defeated us with it. Once Haku is in one of the mirrors, it's possible for her to move between the mirrors at the speed of light. It's nearly impossible to follow her attacks as every mirror shows her reflection. One could say it's impossible to see all of Haku's attacks, since they come in too fast to see. Even if you try to attack the real Haku, she will have already moved to another mirror when you make your move. Without eyes like the Sharingan or maybe the Byakugan, it's impossible to keep track of her. When Naruto finished, a look of concern for Simui was shared between the Kumo genin, since from what Naruto told them, the technique sounded extremely deadly for anyone to go against. But you were able to defeat her when she used it, so there is a weakness to it, Omoi stated. Yea, the technique has some weakness, one being that it focuses mainly on what happens inside the dome and is vulnerable to outside attack. So it would ideal if the person inside the dome had someone outside the dome to help, where they could make a coordinated attack. Another weakness is that it takes up a lot of chakra to use and maintain, hence the longer the battles last, the weaker the user becomes. Haku although knows this better than anyone, which is why she will try and finish the person off as quickly as possible. That's why the best way to beat this technique when you are alone and inside the dome, is to get outside the dome as quickly as possible. But that is easier said than done, as Haku will not let anyone out and the dome and the ice mirrors are not easily broken and are highly resistant to fire techniques. How were you able to escape? Karui asked. I created a large number of clones to create a distraction and used my superhuman strength to break the mirrors, which forced Haku out and allowed me to defeat her. But I only succeeded because I caught her off guard with my inhuman strength, so unless Samui has something up her sleeve, her chances don't look too good. When Naruto said this, the three Kumo genin gave each other a look, which told Naruto that they knew something he didn't. When he asked, they simply said he would see soon enough. In the arena, once the ice mirror dome was fully formed, Haku backed into one of the mirrors and merged with it. After which an image of Haku appeared on each of the mirrors around the Kumo Konoiki. Cool, Samui said, both because of the chill in the air and because she was impressed with what Haku did. Now I will show you my true speed, Haku said, where she threw a senbon needle, with such speed that Samui didn't know what happened until the needle flew past her and cut her left cheek. After which Haku unleashed a massive barrage of needles from multipliable directions. Samui did her best to try and deflect the senbon needles with her katana. But they came in too fast for her to block them all. It got so bad that Samui was covered in needles and cuts and was forced to drop her katana and raise her arms to cover her face. This isn't good, I can't defend myself against her attacks, there's too many of them and they're coming in too fast for me to block them, Samui thought. Eventually, after a minute or so, Haku halted her assault and said, please give up, I do not wish to hurt you. If you forfeit the match now, I will not harm you any further. I'm afraid, I cannot do that, replied Samui as she slowly stood up. If I surrender, I would shame my village and my teammates, and that would not be cool. I see, said Haku in a disappointed tone. Then I am sorry to say you will lose. With the exception of one person, no one has ever escaped my Makyo Hyosho and there is no technique that can defeat it. At this remark, Samui suddenly smirked, which was very unusual for her, since Samui rarely ever smirked, let alone smiled. Hey, I must say you Kiri Shinobi are certainly an arrogant people. Excuse me, Haku asked in confusion, not fully understanding what Samui said. You say that there is no technique that can defeat this technique yours. Yes. Well, I am about to show you how wrong you are and how you shouldn't underestimated the power of the shinobi of Kumogaku Hidden Cloud, the blonde Kumo Konoiki replied. Enter Naruto OST 2 Reikiri Thunder Break. After saying this, Samui then began to do a series of high-speed hand seals where once she finished said yelled out, Ranton, Riza Sakusu, Storm Release, encouraging crushing chain tormenting principle. 3. As soon as she yelled this out, bright blue laser beams shot out of her hands and broke into several more laser beams and flew straight for all of Haku's ice mirrors. Impossible, Haku thought in disbelief when she saw the beams of lights before they hit her mirrors and shattered them instantly. As the mirrors shattered, Haku suddenly emerged from one of the larger pieces above Samui and attempted to strike her from above. But before Haku could reach Samui, the laser beams that Samui fired suddenly turned around and flew straight for her. Seeing this, Haku was forced to halt her attack and move out of the laser's beam's path, which were coming in from multiple directions and collided together in a large explosion when she moved away. In the audience, that's the way Samui Killer Bee cheered from the crowd. She ain't down or out of the count, her power is all a flash, with some still left in her stash. Shit, she's a bloodline holder too. Zabuza said in shock, when he saw Samui use the Riza Sakusu to break Haku's Makyo Hyosho. What do you mean, Zabuza-sensei? Saito asked as he turned to his sensei. In Kumo there is a group of shinobi with a unique bloodline called Ranton Storm Release. Like Haku's Hyoten Ice Release, it involves combining two nature elements with one another to form a new element. The Ranton bloodline involves the user combining water and lightning to create beams of energy that move at a phenomenal speed and can destroy almost anything that gets in their path. It's a fearsome power to go up against. How do you know so much about it, sensei? Saito asked. Before I first left Kiri, I once fought a shinobi from Kumogaku, who possessed the Ranton bloodline. He was known as Darui no Kuroi Kaminari, Darui of the Black Lightning. Zabuza replied, remembering the Kumo shinobi who had been powerful adversary when Zabuza fought him. So she's a Ranton user, Kushina muttered with a hint of surprise in her voice. I have to admit I didn't expect her to be this powerful. Agreed, Yamato acknowledged. Looks like this battle has turned into a battle of bloodlines, with Kumo's Ranton bloodline facing off with Kiri's Hyoten bloodline, Asuma remarked. HMF. Looks like you won't have it so easy after all, Ice Princess, Mai muttered after seeing Samui destroy Haku's Makyo Hyosho. Guess there's more to cow tits than just her big breasts. In the cage box. In the cage's box, the other cages, with the exception of the Reikage and his guards, were all reeling from the shock of Simui being a Rantan user, as none of them had expected the girl to be bloodline holder. The Mizukage was of course the most shocked out of all the cages, as she never expected Simui to actually destroy Haku's Makyo Hyosho. As I said, Mizukage-sama, a smirking Reikage spoke, gaining everyone's attention. Simui is much more powerful than she appears. Naturally, the female cage was slightly irked by what the Reikage said, especially when he was smirking. But to her credit, she didn't let it show and said, "She is indeed an impressive shinobi, but I would not count Haku-chan out just yet, as she is a highly resourceful shinobi as well." Very impressive, thought a disguised Orochimaru, as he was intrigued with the two girls' level of skill and their bloodlines. So much so that considered having his agents capture both girls when the invasion began. If captured, they would make useful subordinates if he could successfully turn a more useful research material for his experiments. At the very least, they could be usefully breeders for future vessels for him at a later time. In the finalist box. No way, Simui has a bloodline. Naruto said in surprise as he recognized the technique Simui was using. Wait, you didn't know about this? Shikamaru asked, who was standing next to Naruto on his right side. I had no clue, she never used it when we first met and she never said anything about having one. That's because she hadn't learned how to use her bloodline yet when we met you, Omoi replied, who was standing next to Naruto on his left side. Huh, guess I wasn't the only one who was keeping a few secrets, Naruto thought before his attention turned to Shikamaru, who was speaking to him. So what exactly is this bloodline of hers? It's called Rantan, and from what I heard it's a pretty powerful one, where it allows the user to fire powerful blasts of energy. Only a select few people in Kumo have it. This is just too troublesome, muttered Shikamaru, both of them would such a pain to deal with, I am so glad I quite. Naruto just smirked at this remark, although he did agree with what Shikamaru meant. Both girls were very strong Kunoichi and they would be difficult opponents to fight. In the arena, after Haku avoided Simui's attack, the female ice user emerged out of the smoke caused by the explosion when the laser beams collided with one another. But she was soon followed by several more energy beams, which continued to pursue her no matter where she went. Seeing that the energy beams were converging on from several different directions, Haku realized she could no longer avoid the beams and stop running and created an ice dome around herself. As soon as the dome went up, the beams hit the barrier and exploded, causing another large explosion. End Naruto OST 2 Reikiri Thunder Break. After the explosion, much of the arena was filled with a thin layer of smoke, although was still clear enough to see through. As Simui walked towards the point of the explosion, she could make out an unconscious Haku lying on the ground in the center of a small crater caused by the explosion, which also damaged the arena wall behind Haku. But before Simui could walk any further, she suddenly took out a set of shuriken and threw them at several senbon needles that were flying towards her from her right and hit them with pinpoint precision. She then quickly spun around to her left and blocked another attack from an assailant with her katana, which she had picked up earlier. After the failed sneak attack, the assailant jumped back and landed several meters opposite Simui, revealing it to be Haku. I assume that you sense my attack and realized that the me you saw was a clone, Haku said as she stared at her opponent and glanced over at her clone, which broke and shattered into ice, revealing it to be a Kuri Bunshin ice clone. Correct, I kept my senses alert for you, even when I saw your clone. I see. I had hoped that my clone would fool you long enough to catch you off guard, Haku said. You're even more skilled than I ever expected. I never suspected that you two possessed a bloodline like myself. Thank you, you're equally impressive, Simui replied. I did not think you would actually evade my attack, yet you did. I'm assuming that you used the dome to protect yourself long enough for you to create the clone to trick me and then used your Makyo Hyosho technique to escape my attack at the last possible second. Correct, Haku answered, as she was impressed with Simui's deductive skills, as in just a few moments she had figured out how the ice user escaped her attack. For the next few minutes the two Kaneki stared at one another, both looked worn from their long battle. Haku was fairly scorched up from narrowly avoiding Simui's Riza Sakasu twice, her clothes were also torn up a bit and she had several small cuts on her arms and legs. Simui on the other hand was slightly worse off, where her clothes were cut up pretty badly from Haku's needle barrage and were covered in dried blood dirt. She even had a few needles still stuck in her arms and legs, yet despite her appearance she was still ready to continue the battle. with the audience. That girl is good, I'll give her that. I didn't think anyone, other than the Senju and Uchiha kids could push Haku like this, Zabuza thought. Man, those two are intense, Kiba commented, clearly impressed with the two Kunoichi. They're very strong, Hinata said, who could not help but feel slightly inferior when compared to Haku or Sumui. She was of course not the only one, as Sakura and Ino were also feeling the same way as they watched the battle and thought back to their own matches during the preliminaries. Naturally it was hardest on Ino, as she had been Sumui's opponent during the preliminaries and was taken out within seconds by the older Kunoichi, with little effort. Both of them are very skilled, Kurenai remarked, as like most people she was highly impressed with the two foreign Kunoichi. Yay! Kiri and Kumo are taking this year's exam serious by sending these two to the exam, Asuma replied. Alright, now this is more like it. Cheered Anko, as she was enjoying the match between Haku and Sumui. Who do you think will win? Shizune asked, as she turned to Kushina and Yamato, who was sitting next to her. I'm afraid it's very hard to tell. Both girls seem to be quite skilled, Yamato said before turning to his former Anbu captain. What do you think, Kushina-senpai? Too close to tell. That Haku girl has gotten a lot stronger since Nami no Kuni, and as much as I hate to admit it, that Kumo girl is just as good. More than likely it will come down to who can last the longest or who makes the first mistake. In the arena, enter Naruto Shippuden OST 2 Sunspot. After staring at one another for about 2 minutes, the two Kunoichi finally made their move, where they charged at one another at the same time with incredible speed. To the ordinary people in the audience, the two girls were nothing but blurs. Only the shinobi members in the audience could see the two girls, who were moving throughout the arena with impressive speed, clashing with other for a moment before disappearing again. Eventually though, the two girls slowed down, where Sumui then took out several shuriken and threw them at Haku, who deflected them with her senbon needles. But as soon as Haku had dealt with the shuriken, Sumui appeared above her with her katana now covered in lightning and swung it down on Haku's head, cutting it in two. But just when Sumui thought she had won, Haku began to crack, before shattering into 100 pieces of ice, revealing she had replaced herself with an ice clone. After the fake Haku shattered into ice, the shards that made her up started to float in the air and surround Sumui, before they then all converged in on her at once. Once the ice shards pierced Sumui, the real Haku reappeared a few feet from her. But as soon Haku appeared, Sumui reverted into a wooden log, revealing that she had replaced herself at the last second. Also on the log was an exploded note, which lit up and exploded, forcing Haku to raise her arm and cover her face from the blast. As the smoke slowly dissipated, Haku lowered her arm, where she then saw several shuriken covered in lightning spinning towards her at high speed. Wasting no time, Haku quickly moved to her right, where the shuriken flew past her and embedded themselves deeply into the wall behind her. After avoiding the shuriken, Haku saw the real Sumui emerge from behind the smoke and throw several more lightning-enhanced shuriken at her, which she narrowly avoided again. After which she then preformed several high-speed one-handed hand seals and said, Hyoten, Korihari, ice release, ice needles. Creating hundreds of small ice needles and fired them at the blonde Kunoichi. B. Acting quickly, Sumui formed 3 high-speed hand seals and thought, Tsuten, Mizurapa, water style, water release, wild water wave. And spat out a large stream of water, which washed away the ice needles. At the same time she also converted some of her chakra in her hands into lightning and added it to the water to increase its effectiveness. After the lightning-enhanced water wave washed away the ice needles, it continued towards Haku, who immediately created a narrow wall of ice to hide behind, blocking electrified water attack. When the water attack ended, Haku noticed several exploding notes floating in the water around her. She then realized that Sumui had added some exploding notes to attack, which lit up and exploded, causing a large cloud of smoke and dust. Shortly after the explosion, Haku emerged out of the smoke in relatively good shape, but as soon as she appeared out of the smoke, Sumui appeared behind her and slashed. But to the blonde Kunoichi surprise, Haku reverted into water, revealing that she had been a water clone. Using her sensory skills, Sumui quickly located Haku behind the smoke, emanating a large amount of chakra. Realizing that Haku was preparing some kind of large-scale jutsu, Sumui began preparations for her own jutsu. I had planned to save this technique for either Naruto-kun or Sabaku no Gaara of the Sand Waterfall. But I have no other choice now, if I wish to win this match, Haku thought as she performed the necessary hand seals. She then began to summon up most of her remaining chakra and gather the water from Simwee's last attack for the technique she had created during the 1-month training period. At the same time, Simwee finished performing the hand seals needed for her technique and raised her right arm up with her palm stretched forward and the other arm supporting the right. She then gathered most of her remaining chakra for her strongest technique, which she knew would be her last attack, win or lose. Once the smoke and dust from the earlier explosion dissipated and the girls became visible to one another, both of them unleashed their final attacks. Hyoten, Koriru Ice Release, Ice Dragon. Haku cried, as the water around her swelled around her and began to turn to ice and form into a massive Chinese dragon made out of water and ice, which began to freeze everything around it before charging towards Simwee. C. Rantan, Ryazaho, Storm Release, Laser Cannon. Simwee yelled at the same time as Haku, where a massive bright blue beam of energy erupted from outstretched palm and headed straight for Haku's dragon. D. Within seconds the two large attacks collided with one another, where the laser beam sliced right through Haku's ice dragon before it hit the arena wall right below the stands, causing yet another massive explosion. End Naruto Shippuden OST 2 Sunspot. Both these girls are nuts, yelled Shikamaru, as he covered his eyes from the force of the explosion. Shit, I didn't think Simwee would go this far. Karui commented as she raised her arms to shield her face. Haku. Zabuza yelled as he stood up, fearing the worst for his student. Damn, what the hell is with kids these days? Jiraiya thought as he and the other cages saw the massive explosion, where the smoke and dust cover the entire arena, blocking everyone's view of the match. Not long after the two attacks collided, the smoke and dust cloud caused by the blast began to dissipate, allowing the audience to see the arena again. As the smoke and dust cleared, the finalist could see a massive hole in the arena wall directly below the stands, which had been caused when Simwee's attack hit it. The arena, which was already in pretty bad shape from earlier battles, was now covered in small pools of water from when Simwee's Ryazaho destroyed Haku's Koriru. Shit, Simwee wasn't playing around, Naruto thought when he saw the massive hole now in the wall, which was easily twice the size the one he made when he fought Neji. Before long though, Naruto and everyone saw a single figure standing in the middle of the arena. As the smoke and dust cleared further, they saw that the figure was a weary-looking Simwee, whose clothes were torn up and filthy. All right, Simwee, I knew she could do it. Karui cheered, thinking that her teammate had won. Man, that was too close, Omoi thought as he let out a sigh of relief, since he was starting to doubt that his blonde teammate wouldn't win. Something isn't right here, Yugito thought with a frown. Even though she was pleased to see that her teammate and fellow blonde was okay, something didn't sit right with her. What's wrong, kitten? The kitten asked, sensing her honest concerns. Your teammate won, I thought you would be happy. I am, just that something feel right, Yugito replied, where as soon as she thought this, her concerns were answered when she saw an ice mirror suddenly appear from behind Simwee. After the ice mirror appeared, Haku emerged out of the mirror and stabbed Simwee in the neck with her senbon needles. Seeing this, the Kumo Genin all cried out to Simwee. In the arena, after Haku appeared out the ice mirror and stabbed her in the neck with her senbon needles, Simwee turned around slightly to look at her Kiri opponent. I am sorry, Simwee-san, you were a watery adversary, I hold no ill will towards you, but you have lost this battle, a tired Haku said. Who like Simwee was in a sorry state, and looked just as exhausted as Simwee, after narrowly escaping the blowed Kunoichi's Ryazaho. Her hair had broken from its bun holder and fell down her back. Her black scarf was gone, her skirt was torn up and caked in dirt, and her blue top was destroyed, leaving only her fishnet shirt, which was also fairly torn up, covering her upper body, and she was covered in cuts, dirt and dried blood. You haven't won yet, Simwee said, before she reverted into lightning and electrocuted the female ice user, revealing that she had been a lightning clone. Akalush, Haku cried in pain as she felt the lightning travel throughout her body. Eventually the lightning faded and Haku fell to the ground, barely conscious and unable to move with the exception of the occasional twitch, caused by the lightning that traveled through her body. After Haku fell to the ground, the real Simwee appeared, who had been hiding in the field under the guise of a genjutsu. Seeing that Haku was unable to move, Simwee slowly walked towards her opponent, with the intent of finishing this battle. It seems that you are the one who has lost, Haku-san, Simwee said as neared the student of Zabuza. But before she could do anything, she suddenly noticed that her arms and legs start to feel cold and go numb. When she looked down, she saw ice slowly covering her body. Before long, the ice covered her arms, lower body and began to cover her upper body, causing her to fall to the ground shivering and unable to move. WWWH what? HH happing TT to me. Simui has as her teeth chattered from the cold. Seeing this, a painful smile appear on Haku's face. It seems that you were not able to completely avoid my Koriru after all. How? My Koriru is not an ordinary technique. Even if you destroy or evade the dragon itself, you cannot escape the water that surrounds it and makes it up. All the water needs to do is splash your body and it will slowly freeze and cover your body in ice, causing it to go numb, leaving you unable to move. It seems we both lose Simui-san, Haku said with a sad smile before finally losing consciousness. Not CC cool, Simui said through her chattering teeth as she continued to shiver, unable to move. It was at this point that Genma reappeared in the arena, after his shunshunned body flickered away to avoid being caught up in the crossfire between the two Kunoichi. Damn, those two sure did a number on the arena, the Tokubutsu Jonin thought as he scanned the arena, before turning to the two girls with impressed look. Who says girls don't know how to fight? Seeing that Haku was now unconscious and Simui was covered in ice, unable to do anything, Genma decided to officially end the match. Both Haku of Kirigakure and Simui of Kumogakure are unable to continue fighting. This match is a draw. With the audience. After Genma declared the match a draw, the crowd broke into large applause, even though many were disappointed that there was no winner. Everyone agreed that it was an excellent battle and that both Kunoichi fought well. Looks like we're out this, Zabuza remarked, since with Haku now out, Kiri had no other genin in the exam. But still he was quite proud with how well Haku had fought, as she had become a great deal stronger since Nami no Kuni. He was even amazed at Haku's Koriru, as he had not been aware that Haku created such a technique during the previous month and guessed she must have created it in secret, when he was busy training Chojuro. The battle was a blast, but ended with a dudded, thought Killer Bee as he was disappointed that Simui hadn't won. Perhaps, but Simui still fought well, you should be proud, the Hachibi said, where Killer Bee just nodded and said he was. A draw, can't say I'm surprised, both of them were fairly evenly matched, Kushina commented. I agree, I dare say even Naruto would have had difficulty fighting either one of them, Yamato added. Not bad, my thought, as she had been impressed with Haku and Simui. Guess that's it, but those two were pretty strong, Akatsuki said as he turned to his female partner. They're not bad I guess, Kuretsuki remarked with a shrug, although had to silently admit to herself that she would have had a hard time if she had fought either one of them. It seems Kumo and Kiri have some good quality Kunoichi. Man, that was awesome, said an ecstatic Konohamaru after the battle ended. Yay, did you see that blonde girl who shot the energy blasts? She was so cool, a young boy said excitedly. That girl Haku was just as cool as her, a young girl said. Didn't you see how she would appear out of those ice mirrors and how she created that massive ice dragon? Both of them were so powerful, said Udon. Aruka-sensei, do you think the reason they are so strong is because of their bloodlines? Miyogi asked. In part yes, but not entirely, Aruka answered, where when he saw the confused look on the children's faces he explained further. Although it is true that their bloodlines are very powerful and they gave them a significant advantage. It is not the real reason why they are so strong. They are strong because they trained hard in both their bloodlines and their individual skills. Strength and skill like theirs cannot be gained natural. It has to be earned through hard work and tireless training. So if I were to train hard like them, I could become as strong as they are one day. A young girl asked. Yes you can, if you are willing to give it your all, Aruka replied with a kind smile. Bloodlines alone do not decide if you are powerful or not. There are many great and powerful shinobi out there who do not have bloodlines and are stronger than those who do. Wow, said a young boy, that's it, I going to train hard just like they did. Me too, said a young girl, I'm going to train every day, and become just as strong as them. Count me in, yelled a young boy. Yay, me as well, said another girl, where soon enough the whole class was declaring that they would train harder as well. When Aruka saw this, the young man smiled, since his plan to stimulate the children and show them the value of hard work and training, by allowing them to watch the Chunin finals was working better than he had hoped. The finalist box. A draw, said Karui in surprise as she couldn't believe that Haku had gotten Simui, just when it looked she had won. That Haku girl was a lot tougher than we originally thought, Omoi remarked while thinking. I guess the old saying is true, a battle is never done, until someone is down and out. Looks like you were right, kitten, that ice girl still had a few tricks up her sleeve, the Nibi remarked. Yes, I know, it seems Naruto, Uchiha Sasuke and Sabaku no Gaara aren't the only ones we should be wary of in this exam, Yugito replied, as to be honest she was a little surprised by how things turned out. It also complicated things, since with Karu's loss to Sai and now Samui's tie with Haku, the only ones left to accomplish their mission were her and Omoi. Man, Haku and Samui have really come a long way since I last fought them, Naruto thought as he was amazed at how strong they were. In the cage box. Damn brat, you sure know how to pick them, Jirai though with an amused smirk, after Genma ended the match and the two Kunoichi were taken away to be treated by the medics. A draw? How disappointing, the Mizukage said with a sad expression as she had hoped Haku would have made it a little further in the exam. She of course could not fault the girl, as Samui had proven stronger than anyone expected. Yet despite being caught off guard by Samui's bloodline, she was still able to pull off a draw, which was better than losing. Not to mention given how well Haku fought, she was certain that the battle had earned them some good publicity with the visiting daimyos and feudal lords. Mizukage wasn't the only one who was a little disappointed with the outcome of the match. The Reikage had been certain that Samui could win her match, given her bloodline and her fighting skill. Sadly though they had underestimated Haku, who was able to take Samui down with her. It seems Naru-chan was right about those two being strong, Tsunade thought. It's just as well the battle ended as it did, even if one of them had won, they would have been too tired and injured to fight in the next round and would have been forced forfeit. That was a nice battle, the Kazekage suddenly commented. Indeed it was, remarked the Sandaime, both Kanoshi here a credit to your village, Mizukage-sama, Reikage-sama. Thank you Hokage-sama, although I will confess I was a little disappointed with how things turned out as I had been certain that Haku would have won, the Mizukage replied. At this remark the Reikage grunted as he too felt the same way in regards to Samui. Yes, but still it was a well-fought battle and they both fought admirably and you should be proud of them for that, the Sandaime said. At this commented the two Kages nodded, as they were indeed proud of the girls. Now in regards to being Chunin, the Sandaime spoke. I vote to having them both becoming Chunin. The two of them showed excellent show of skill when fighting each other and showed an impressive use of ninjutsu. Both of them also showed calmness of mind and did not panic when under pressure. Samui-san showed good sense in keeping her true skills hidden and did not hurry to use them, even when in a tight situation. When she eventually revealed her true skill, she revealed them when they would be of the most use and made good use of them, allowing her to gain an advantage over Haku. She even showed impressive skill in combining her lightning affinity with her water attack to increase its effectiveness, and throwing in exploding notes to catch her opponent off guard when the attack ended. She also showed excellent foresight which nearly won her the match when she created the Raiten Kage Bunshin lightning-style shadow clone, and hid under a genjutsu, waiting for Haku to appear, the Sandaime said before continuing on with Haku. Haku-san also displayed good qualities, using her superior speed to her advantage as well as showing the ability to adapt to difficult situations, such as using her ice clones as decoys and using their broken shards to attack Samui. She also used her surroundings to her advantage, where she used the water Samui created earlier to help her create her Koriru. Such resourcefulness and adaptability is essential both as a Chunin and as a team leader, where it can often decide if a mission will fail or succeed. Furthermore, she showed remarkable talent and skill to create such powerful and versatile techniques like the Koriru and the Makyo Hyosho, and used them to their full extent which allowed her to escape defeat. Naturally after hearing the Hokage's reasoning the other three Kages nodded their heads and agreed to add their recommendation to make both Haku and Samui Chunins. In the audience. Once Haku and Samui had been taken away by the medics to be treated, many people in the audience began to mutter to one another with excitement. Since only one match was left in the first round of the finals and it was Sasuke and Omoi's match. The next match is finally the Uchihas won, said one man in the crowd as he looked at the leaflet for the matches. Yay, but who this Omoi kid that he is going against? The person next to him asked. I don't know, but I bet he's nothing compared to an Uchiha. Yeah, you're probably right, but let's hope the match will turn out to be as good as the Senju and Hyuga battle or better yet like the one we just watched. As the crowed people began to talk, rumors began suddenly spread about Sasuke's late arrival. Some said he was forfeiting the match, others said he was injured from training and couldn't fight, while some said he had gone missing and hadn't been seen since the preliminaries. As the crowd waited for the next match, the visiting daimyos and feudal lords used the time to place their bets. In the cage box, has there been any sign of Sasuke yet? The Hokage asked as he turned to Rado. I'm afraid not, Hokage-sama, the Tokubutsu Jonin replied, which made the old Hokage and his two students worry, fearing the worst. I see, I have no choice then, the Sandaime said as he lowered his head for a moment before lifting it up again. We cannot let the guests wait like this. But before the Hokage could tell Rado to have Sasuke disqualified, the Kazekage suddenly said, 10 more minutes. Excuse me, Kazekage-sama, the Sandaime asked. Can we try and wait for 10 more minutes? The guests have been waiting to see the last Uchiha fight. It would be cruel to cancel it. Wouldn't you agree, Raikage-sama? Said the Kazekage as he turned to his fellow Kage. At this question the Raikage narrowed his eyes. Normally the bulky Kage would have demanded that Sasuke be eliminated from the finals for being so late and for keeping them waiting. But given how his plan to humiliate Konoha at the Chunin exam depended on Sasuke being in the exam, he had no choice but to agree with the Kazekage's suggestion to wait a little longer. When the Kazekage requested for more time to be given to Sasuke, Jiraiya narrowed his eyes and stared at the Kage. He was already suspicious enough of him, given the way he was acting lately and how he asked the Hokage to delay Sasuke's match earlier. But now he was even more dubious of him, since this wasn't like the same man he knew. He was also mistrustful over why the Kazekage was going out on such a limb for a genin that wasn't even from his own village, regardless of the reasons he gave earlier. If this was the Raikage, Jiraiya could understand slightly, since his genin was fighting Sasuke. But since the Kazekage was the one who was making all the fuss to hold the match, Jiraiya was becoming more and more wary of him. What's he up to? Jiraiya thought as he studied the man carefully. Jiraiya was of course not the only one who was becoming distrustful of the Kazekage's actions. As his former teammate Tsunade was just as suspicious of the Kage. With all due respect, Kazekage-sama, we cannot hold up the finals for one single genin, regardless of who he is or of how many people have come to watch him fight. We do have other genin who are ready to compete and who arrived on time. I myself would not ask for such leeway for my son Naruto if he was this late. A shinobi cannot be late for a mission. If he is, it could cost him the lives of his client or his comrades, causing the mission to fail. If Uchiha Sasuke cannot arrive on time for his match, then how can he be trusted to be on time for a mission? You make a sound argument, Tsunade-sama, but we have waited a long time already. Waiting 10 more minutes will not make that much of a difference, the Kazekage replied calmly. It can make all the difference in the world when on a mission or in a battle, where it can decide the fate of a comrade and the success or failure of a mission, and I think we have been more than patient with him. If Uchiha Sasuke cannot be on time now, then he clearly does not deserve to be a Chunin, Tsunade retorted. Hearing this, the old Hokage could only nod his head, as Tsunade made several valid points. But so did the Kazekage. He could even hear the cries of the people from the crowd, demanding to start the next match and saying that they wanted to see Sasuke fight. I must confess both of you make good arguments, the Hokage muttered as he thought what he should do. If I may interject, Hokage-sama, but perhaps we could come to a compromise. The Mizukage interjected, making her voice heard. Of course, Mizukage-sama, what do you propose? The Sandaime asked, as he welcomed a possible solution to this conundrum. Well, as the Kazekage has pointed out, if we disqualify Uchiha Sasuke from the finals, many of the visiting daimyos, feudal lords and shinobi heads will be greatly annoyed by this. Since for many of them, one of the main reasons why they have come here is to watch Uchiha Sasuke fight. I myself must confess that I would like to see the boy's capability with my own eyes. But at the same time I must agree with what Tsunade-sama said, as his tardiness cannot be tolerated and a Chunin cannot afford to be late for anything, the female Kage said, where she then continued on. What I suggest is rather simple, we give him the 10 extra minutes that the Kazekage asked for. But we remove his candidacy to become a Chunin, regardless of how well he performs in the finals, should he arrive in the allowed time. That way both parties are satisfied, where Uchiha Sasuke still has his chance to fight, but loses his chance to become a Chunin. When the Sandaime heard this he could only nod his head in agreement, as he found the Mizukage's solution quite reasonable and was rather impressed with the young woman's diplomatic skills. Clearly showing that she was more than a skilled shinobi and a pretty face and that she was worthy of being the Mizukage of Kiri. A very intriguing idea, Mizukage-sama. Do you have any problems with this, Kazekage-sama, Reikage-sama? The Sandaime asked. I have no problem with this, the Reikage replied, as it didn't really matter to him if Sasuke became a Chunin or not, all he needed was for him to be in the finals. Nor do I, the Kazekage answered. And what of you, Tsunade? Asked Sarutobi, as he turned to his former student. I have no problem with this, Tsunade said, since she didn't really care if Sasuke got disqualified from the finals or not. She just wanted to see how far the Kazekage was willing to go to keep Sasuke in the finals, and now she knew that whatever the Kazekage was planning, it involved Sasuke. I don't know what you're up to, but I'm onto you, Tsunade thought as she watched the Yondaime Kazekage closely. Good. Rado, please tell Genma of what we have decided, the Hokage said to Scarred Man. Hearing the Hokage's orders, the Tokubutsu Jonin nodded and once again shunshined away to Genma. In the arena, after the girls had been taken by the medic, Genma looked up to the finalist box and noticed that Sasuke had still not appeared yet. Uchiha Sasuke will have to give up his match at this rate, Genma thought. Seeing that Sasuke hadn't arrived yet, Genma held off on disqualifying Sasuke to see if the Hokage wanted to do anything about it. After a few minutes he got his answer when Rado arrived and told him of what the Hokage and the other cages had decided. When Rado finished explaining everything to Genma, he went back up to the cage box. I see, Genma thought, as he took out his pocket watch and looked at it, seeing that it was 5-2, a 10-minute extension, Ladies and gentle, due to the fact that Uchiha Sasuke has yet to appear, he will be given a 10-minute extensions. If he does not appear in this time, he will be disqualified from the exam, Genma announced. Naturally, when this was announced, the crowd did not react very well, as many were angered by the fact that they might not see Sasuke fight. Where's the Uchiha? One person shouted. Come on, bring him out. Shouted another person. Yeah, I paid good money to watch the Senju and Uchiha heirs fight. Roared a different person. Sasuke-kun, thought a worried Sakura. Geez, I know Kakashi-sensei likes to show up late, but this is getting ridiculous. What the hell are Sasuke and Kakashi-sensei playing at? Naruto thought as he was getting really annoyed with all these delays, especially since his fight with Temari was after Sasuke's match. For Kami's sake, what the hell is taking him so long? Karui asked angrily, as she was starting to get really annoyed with the Uchiha, regardless of how good-looking she thought he was. So the next 10 minutes will decide if I fight the Uchiha or not, Omoi thought with a frown and began sucking on a new lollipop he just took out. I don't know what Konoha is playing at. But he better show if we want a chance of achieving our mission, Yugito thought with a frown of her own. So Uchiha, will you show up or will you chicken out? Sai thought, who decided to stop painting and walk over to the railing to see if Sasuke would show up or not. Damn it, how much longer do we have to wait? Kankuro muttered quietly to his sister, as he was starting to get nervous, especially since Sasuke had still not appeared. Is the Uchiha going to show or not? Before his sister could ask, Gaara, who was standing near him, spoke. He will, I'm sure of it. When Gaara said this, his siblings could see the bloodlust in their younger brother's eyes. It was a look they knew all too well, and they could tell it had only grown as he watched the other finalists fight. Seeing that Gaara was not far from losing control of himself, the two older Sand siblings could only hope that the young brother could contain his bloodlust long enough for the Uchiha to arrive and for the invasion to begin. Please Sasuke-kun, please come, Sakura thought as she prayed for the safe arrival of her teammate crush. In the arena, standing in the middle of the arena, Genma watched as time ticked away until eventually his watch hit 2:05. Time's up, guess that is it for the Uchiha, the Tokubutsu Jonin thought. The deadline is up and Uchiha Sasuke has not arrived, therefore he. Genma said. But before he could finish speaking, a large whirlwind of leaves appeared in front of him. Once it died down, he saw Uchiha Sasuke and his sensei Hitaki Kakashi standing back to one another, where Kakashi then looked over to Genma and said, Sorry, are we late? That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.